Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. There are many people who we don't know about, but I guarantee you they are. I will tell you how I know that. Who support Russia in its fight against the United States on the territory of Ukraine. But a lot of them are afraid to speak up, are afraid to confirm that, or are afraid in a good society to express this kind of views or preferences. But in personal conversations, they will tell you. The problem is, in a country with free speech, you shouldn't be afraid to express your opinion freely, right? Without, being concerned or afraid of any repercussions that would affect your livelihood, your employment, your friendship with other people. Because that's not really the bottom line in a relationship. When you go and meet a new woman, you don't ask first, hey, in Ukraine, do you like the Russians or the Americans? And based on that answer, you're gonna pursue or not the relationship. That should not even matter, right? Even though there are studies suggesting that relationship must have both members of the relationship, if there's just two involved, obviously, should have the same, ideas, preferences, conservative or liberal, because if you have two of the opposite side, usually doesn't work. But that shows in your day-to-day behavior, not only in the political verbal spats. Now, this article comes from Sputnik, and it shows us that it's from yesterday, which was the 15th of November 2022, but it's valid for today. Many Slovak citizens supporting Moscow in conflict with Kiev, former Prime Minister says. I have no doubt that happens in many places, I can tell you for a fact. I communicate with certain people, and they let me know, they give me the information, hey, we like to report this and that, okay? So, Slovakia is a friend of Russia, and a lot of our residents support Moscow in the conflict with Kiev, former Slovak Prime Minister Jan Čarnogórsky told Sputnik. And I'm quoting, "There is one serious fact. In September of this year, a public opinion poll was held in Slovakia. According to the poll, 52%, and therefore the majority of Slovaks, voted for the support of Russia in the Russian-Ukrainian conflict," Čarnogórsky said. Yeah, but you see, those guys do whatever they want over there, regardless. At the same time, Čarnogórsky noted that there is a growing understanding in Western countries of the seriousness of the situation around Ukraine. And I'm quoting, "Already there in the United States, people are voting to reduce military support to Ukraine. But on the other hand, everything that can be understood as Ukraine's success is used there as a continuation of the previous policy of total support for Kiev," Čarnogórsky added. Well, people can say whatever they want. You have in big interests that actually rule, not citizen. At the same time, Čarnogórsky, now that I read, on February 24th, Russia launched a military, we know what that is. It's just they gave us the last paragraph, always to let us remain with whatever the article wanted to communicate. You forget about it, you just get the last paragraph, which is this and that. So I have no doubt that there are many supporters of Russian actions in Ukraine, and if you really paid attention to how it developed, the situation developed in Ukraine, and if you have a memory, unless you are just a bad dude, you should understand that it's not black or white. It is gray, and you can look at these guys having justification for whatever actions they they do, and the same on the other side. So it's not a clear cut, as the mass media is trying to convince us, and that is very dishonest. We live in the free world, blah blah blah, tra la la. You know how that works. So I know a lot of Romanians think the same as the Slovaks, or at least the poll showed. I don't know how Romanians, but I know from certain kind of contacts. I know Americans the same way. I know a lot of people who say, I don't give a shit about what's going on over there. I don't want to send any money there. I have no problem with those. I have no problem with those. What's going on there? Some people simply don't know anything about it. Some people simply listen to the mass media, the free mass media, the corporate mass media, whatever they tell them, and they just believe it. Why? Because I think they don't know better. I don't know. But even though you find so-called intellectuals who will parrot back to you whatever an anchor, parrots to him in a little show, and you think of, okay, but did you verify that? Do you think that's true? I mean, they just get certain kind of information and just run with it. Now, I don't know. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to be hurt financially by all this support and inflation and the support for Ukraine, and they will start saying things and acting upon their pain, and they will show their dissatisfaction with the war, not with Ukrainians or with the Russians per se, with the situation, because that's a situation that should not have anything to do with the Slovaks or for the Americans. All of a sudden dictates how much the grocery will cost tomorrow. And I don't want that. I don't like that. Or the energy. Because why? Oh, because the evil Russians. Well, if you take it like that, then okay, Jesus Christ comes in about 12 minutes and you're gonna solve everything. I mean, or I don't know, Humpy Dumpy will come and do some backflips and it's gonna change everything just like this. Or who knows, maybe Dracula will show up and will eat Vlad the Impaler, gonna eat Vlad, the other Vlad, and leave Biden alone because he wouldn't touch Biden. You don't even know if he has any blood in him anyway. Just look at him. Anyway, there are certain countries who have affinity for other countries. Like, for instance, you have the Serbs. You used to have the Bulgarians, but I don't know what happened with the Bulgarians though. They seem to be I don't know, they sold their soul. I don't know. Romanians are done, but Romanians are, for whatever reason, the Romanian leadership, and not only the mass media, hits like Russian, evil Russians. This happened after 1989, when we became free all of a sudden. It was the bad Russians, and I was like, okay, what exactly is wrong? And they make a mistake between the Russians and the Soviets. That's the main thing. And when they look at it like that, they also don't know who the Soviets were. That's another thing. And if you mention certain kind of names and where communists came from and who were the promoters of communism and who were riding high in Soviet Union during the communist times, they will not like what you say. They could not say that's not true. They don't like it because they live in denial, and they will destroy their house of cards. So therefore, they will call you names, and then you say, okay, so you don't actually hate the Russians. You hate me telling you the truth. And then you get in, kindergarten arguments, and you say, what can you do with these people? I mean, you refuse to learn things. You might not like them, but if you want to learn, you listen to the other person. You don't believe, okay, let me do a search. Is that Kaganovich real? Is that Stalin real? Is that the Comintern? Is that Trotsky real? It's what? Yogoda real? You look at these names. You look at the commissars. You look at Katyn Forest. You look for many other information available there. And you figure out, wait a second, how many Russians were there? How many Russians were the ones that really led the communist Soviet Union? And you're going to figure out it was not really the Russians, when the ones that committed the most atrocities were of different kind of... and then why do you hate the Russians? You hate the Soviet Union, but when I point out, as I said, Soviet Union is those guys, you were not like that, because you were conditioned to think that those guys are... Anyway, so there are many Romanians that hate Russians, and you ask them why. That's the connection. There's no other connection. They don't have anything else. And if you ask them, okay, tell me about Putin. He's just undemocratic dictator. Was he elected? When you provide evidence, they don't like the evidence because that evidence do not fit their narrative. But they're elected. They're going to say, well, we know how those elections are. And how are the elections in the free world? Those are fair. How do you know that? You know because they tell you so. It's just... But you speak with people who you can't even argue with them. You can't even say, okay, is this a fact? It's a fact. They don't like it. They will not talk to you. They refuse, live in denial. I mean, there's a lot of situations I don't like, but I don't care. I want to learn. But it's not about me here. Anyway, so the Slovaks support. I'm pretty sure there are many other countries, many other nations who really support the Russians. And unfortunately, this thing is misguided. It's Kiev versus Moscow. It's not Kiev versus Moscow. It's Washington versus, and not even Washington, versus Moscow. It's a globalist elite versus Moscow. That's what it is. And they use the guy with the biggest muscles, the Americans, and use these guys here in Ukraine because that's where it was sparked. Otherwise, it would have been Georgia or, I don't know, Abkhazia or Poland. They would have used another country in various ways. And that had to be acted upon. The Russians had to act, and they knew it. They got the right people in place over there. They did all the wrong moves to get here, but the right moves for those guys, and here we have it. So it's not about Russia, it's about those guys and the globalists who want to lead. They want to control. And Russia is in their way. That's what it is. Their culture, their society, their strength. Putin doesn't follow orders, so you can't have that. Like Trump, you can't have that. You can't have another guy, a guy that you can't control. But you have a Biden, you have a Kamala, both controllable 100%. You got Obama, again, an articulated guy with no substance, again. And you got a hateful, what's her name, wife, who doesn't know anything but to hate one group. There you have her. That's why my assessment. And you got others. You got, Bill, I'm not going to talk about the tarred Bush, or the other guy, Clinton. Controllable 100%. Controllable, and they were controlled. They did. Give me the list. I'll do everything. Let me go first to Jerusalem, kiss that wall, which they all do. I don't know if Trump was over there. You go in front of the wall, you kiss that, and then you have a chance to get elected as a president. Look at the presidents and see how many they did that in their campaign. Former presidents, they did this, and not only. They all pay respect somehow over there to the Wailing Wall of Jerusalem. Why? Why don't they go, I don't know, to Zanzibar over there and take a, I don't know, swim in whatever? No? Why not Zanzibar? Why not, I don't know, Polynesia? In French Polynesia, they have a little thing. No, no. But they go all 99% of them go to Jerusalem, the Wailing Wall, and they put that little thing over there and the yarmulke or whatever you call it. Anyway, thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.